Let's talk about how to spot psychopaths and sociopaths. Hi, my name is Dr. Natalie Jones. Nameless Eve commented from a previous video, can you make a video on how to spot them, especially those who may not be on the severe end of the spectrum in men and women? I definitely think those people who are on the severe end of the spectrum, they walk among us and they could be easily spotted. They could be spotted in politics. They can be spotted in career fields. So an example of someone who, I actually put an example of someone who is on the severe end of the spectrum. Yesterday I talked about sociopaths and psychopaths who are, and trigger warning, who are on the severe end of the spectrum, and would, one of the typologies of people that are on the severe end of the spectrum would be to kill someone and not care who sees. And in my stories, unfortunately, I put an example of that. It was a man in the middle of a busy airport. He took a toddler, and again, another trigger warning, and picked the toddler up and slammed him down on his head in front of an airport full of people. That is someone who is severely, severely disturbed. And again, a crowded airport, you cannot hide that, nor do you want to hide that. But some other things may have been at play. I'm not really sure about the details of the full story yet. But anyhow, in terms of how to spot them, I think a psychopath and a sociopath's playground is social media and dating sites now, and so I think that's their playground. So you're going to find a fair number of them. Tinder swindler is a good example of that. So people that get with other people to try and use them for resources, money, sex, and favors. I definitely think a lot of them, and I'll go into another video about this, but a lot of them are classified as avoidant attachment. People love to use avoidant attachment, and I think a lot of people fall under that category, but I'm going to make another video on that altogether. But anyhow, people who lack empathy. You have people that will pretend, and that's all part of the breadcrumbing and future faking and things like that. You will have people that pretend to be empathetic, or who will mirror you. And mirroring looks just exactly like it sounds. I'm a foodie. I like going to restaurants. I do too. I love when I went to travel to China. I do too. So everything that you say, they're also going to say in it, oh, you have every single thing in common. So always be careful with people who are mirroring you. That means that at that very moment, they are simply taking on your personality and they're mirroring it back to you. And essentially when they're doing that, they do that because people fall in love literally with themselves, and that's all mirroring is that you're falling in love with a representation of yourself. They're literally not putting in any effort. They don't have any personality for themselves. A lot of people know people that are sociopathic. So people, again, I've made a video about this, people who like to steal or shoplift. So people can skip scamming and all that kind of stuff. But also I think shoplifting, especially as an adult, and I'm not talking about people who are hungry and, that kind of stuff. I'm talking about people that have the means, have the income, have the resources, and they just shoplift simply just because. And there's a lot of, for the most part, it's younger 20-something white women that fall into this category for the most part. And they just steal for the thrill of it, even though they have means. So an example of this would be like Winona Ryder. She's an actress, made a huge amount of money, but she got caught shoplifting. When it comes to intimacy or other traumas, people who are psychopathic and sociopathic will use that against you. So for example, you may have shared with your partner, that you might have been sexually assaulted or something happened in a particular way. And what they will do out of sheer cruelty and spite is mimic that. So they will try to force you to do something that you don't want to do in the bedroom under the guise, if you love me, you would, or they will try to recreate the scenario in which you were sexually victimized and traumatized. People who will put their hands on you, or put their hands on anybody for that matter, that freely do that. You see this a lot in reality television. Fun fact: people on reality television, I've worked at, again, some of the wealthiest counties in California. People in reality television, they really have those personalities, and a lot of those personalities are typically based off of people with true mental illness. So it's not uncommon for a lot of those major personalities to also have major crash outs, and have been frequent flyers to psychiatric emergencies. So while some parts of reality television may be scripted, those personalities and those people typically are not, and they often will crash. The big personalities that we love usually often have a dark side to them, where they will crash. A lot of them will lose custody of their children due to abusiveness and or neglect. And it's not just reality television. I think movie stars in general typically have a lot of problems when it comes to parenting, and that's just a dark side of that culture that nobody really talks about. I think people often underestimate like pictures and things like that. So a lot of times, people like this will want like evidence of you in a weakened or vulnerable state. Again, something that they will use against you or show to other people to try and point out your flaws. They kind of gloat over it. So if you've ever been in the hospital, you're sick, you're not the best version of yourself, don't be surprised if those people have like a video camera in your face, or a camera where they're taking pictures of you without your permission in a less than desirable state. Another state that they will often also take pictures of you are pictures like where you're unconscious. They will film you doing sexual acts without your permission, and be, sort of glorifying that, may even be showing that to their friends or selling that footage to these porn websites, often without your consent. That happens quite a bit. A good example of this would be Andrew Luster. Andrew Luster, the heir to the Max Factor. There's a movie that's made about that, where he had sex with a bunch of women. He drugged them in order to have sex with them. He videotaped them, including a longtime girlfriend. There was also another woman, a French woman, that was drugged for years and didn't know it. But these people often, they turn off and on like a light switch. They're often cold and uncaring. You often have to do most of the emotional labor in the relationship. You have to carry the relationship on your back, or try to reel in someone. People like this could be, they could be agitated or irritable at the drop of a pin, or fly off the handle, have a lot of misplaced anger or rage. Something that happens is like externalized blame. Is always somebody else's fault. It's always your fault. It's never their problem. It's nothing wrong with them. There's nothing that they need to address or go see a professional about. It's everybody else that needs to do it. They're the only sane one. These people typically don't have a lot of friends, or they may appear to have a lot of friends, but the relationships are very shallow, or their friends are considered like their fan club, stuff like that. People that they're getting constant attention and praise from, or they're just kind of like groupies, but there's no real substance or accountability or vulnerability, because these people often struggle with being vulnerable with others. So that's just a start. It's not a comprehensive list. Hope that helps.